Hi, I'm Derry, and I'm going to talk some more about Mercedes Lackey's Valdemar series. It's me! I'm finally back to talk about the actual books in Mercedes Lackey's Valdemar series. I'm going to be talking about the first trilogy, second duology, and the first anthology today. That all sounds like a lot. It's really not. The first trilogy is the first one she wrote, obviously, and it was written between 1987 and 1988. A little short frame of time here. They're little books. You can buy it in an omnibus edition, and all three together come in at less than 1,000 pages. So for fantasy readers, that's pretty good going. The three books are, in order, Arrows of the Queen, Arrow's Flight, and Arrow's Fall. And they follow the coming of age journey of the young girl Talia. Talia is 13 when we meet her, and she's an empath. If you're familiar with fantasy at all, then you have a pretty good idea what that means. And it's among the gifts, capital G, of the heralds in this world. The first book is Arrows of the Queen, and is Talia's apprenticeship as a herald as such, where she learns the things she's going to need to learn in terms of the history of the areas, the weather conditions, the geography, how best to help the people in any given area, languages, etiquette, those kind of things. The second book, Arrow's Flight, is her journeyman period, where she's out under the authority of a full herald, where the first half of their circuit, the full herald makes decisions with input from Talia, and the second half of the circuit is Talia making the decisions with the full herald's guidance. And in that way, they make sure that, they know what they're doing. All good. The third book is Talia's first mission as a full herald. And the situation stakes become more dire with each book. Of all of the trilogies, this is possibly the most YA in terms of the tropes that we're getting. We're getting the coming of age, obviously. There's a strange not love triangle in the second book. I say strange, not because I didn't like it, but because it's not a triangle. Both Talia and one of the other people are fully aware that they're meant for each other, but the other person is confused and assumes that she's actually in love with somebody else, and that person totally not in love with Talia, and Talia totally not in love with them. So we get romantic conflict there, but it's not an actual love triangle. It's miscommunication. It's one of the things that actually deals with quite a lot, which is communicating emotions. And, for a YA story, that's not a bad thing. The one thing I usually will say here is, while if it had been published late enough, it would have been called YA, and I would have possibly pushed back on it and gone, okay, it can read a little young, but there are some themes in that Talia encounters. There's some things that are more adult themes. In one of the situations, she has to deal with a stepfather who has been abusing his stepdaughters. In the final book, there is an assault, a sexual assault, and while it's off page, it is referenced, and we do understand very clearly what's happened. So there are some dark moments in the trilogy. There are some beautiful moments as well. We've got friendships, we've got a lot of very old-fashioned, friendship trumps and love conquers all, and it's a nice series, okay? I like it. I don't feel that I should have to make apologies for that. The next chunk of the world, the duology she wrote in 1988 and 1989, and 10 years later there was an anthology of short stories written about the same characters that is now included with that duology into a sort of trilogy. And those books are, in order, Oathbound, Oathbreakers, and Oathblood. Now, these books are possibly the only books, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, yes, they're the only books in the Valdemar world that don't actually take place in Valdemar. They introduce a lot of the rest of the world to the readers. Now, in terms of where it sits in the chronology, I will show you a timeline. What you're looking at is, a fairly simple entry in terms of we have a 0 because there's lots of stories to come. And the initial series I spoke about, the Heralds of Valdemar with Talia, as being the most recent story to date, and not long before that we get these books. Oathbound tells us how these two characters meet and what their goal is. And these two characters are kind of cool for their day. They are very tropey, but they're well done. So, tropes become tropes for a reason. And we have the very beautiful, magical, damaged Kithri, and we have the damaged, strong warrior woman in Tama, and they come together to help each other with their quests. They encounter and end up including a Kairi, which is an animal you will encounter again, and it's a kind of hybrid thing that's not a wolf and it's not a wildcat, but somewhere in between. And this species has 3 genders. This species has male, female, and neuter, and their particular Kairi is neuter. And between the 3 of them, they go and they have adventures and they do stuff. There's a magic sword. It's kind of cool. And they join a mercenary company, and they're basically women out there kicking ass. And they're not lovers. At no point are they in any way in a romantic situation. That doesn't mean they don't love each other. And this is something that you'll find quite a lot of in Valdemar. The power of friendship is so very important, that having these ties to people help make life worth living. And we also get an insight into some of the religious aspects. We meet some of the deities outside of Valdemar, in that Tama is a priestess of a warrior aspect of their goddess. Kithri is a noblewoman, down on her luck. She's had some hard times and she's out for revenge. They come together, it's all great. Oathbreakers is where they've been established for a while, the mercenary company's doing well, and their captain is betrayed. So the mercenary company's going to get together and they're going to do something about it. And it's a really good read. And as a duology, they're quick, they're easy, not a problem. And all of these books, these 5 books I've spoken about so far, the most pages in any of them is 320. Admittedly, the least is 303, I think. They're fairly consistently just over 300 pages. They don't take long to read. They're not hugely challenging in terms of having to search for deep meaning. It's pretty in your face. And that's why I class them as brain fluff. They're easy reads. These are easy reads. They're charming. They have a sweetness to them that sometimes is what you need after some of the events in other series. Let's face it, sometimes you just need the good guys to win one. The last book I'm talking about is Oath Blood, and this is the anthology that came out 10 years later. They're all written by Mercedes Lackey, and they all centre around the blood of these 2 women. In terms of, some of the stories are about Tama and Kithri, and some of them are about Kithri's children or grandchildren, or Tama's clan relations. They all do tie together. This is one of the trilogies that aren't essential. Although I say that, none of them are essential. They all stand on their own. Those are the first 6 books that she wrote in this world. Keep in mind, at this time, we are beginning to see short stories being written in this world by other authors that are authorised by Mercedes Lackey and will come out throughout the entire timeline and are still being published now. There's a lot of them, and I'm not going to be including them in this series of videos. Be aware they're out there. So if you do like this world, there are even more stories available. And not by nobodies. There are some big names who have written in the anthologies. So, and when I say in the anthologies, these are not thematic anthologies. These are Valdemar-centric anthologies. So there's a lot of stories available in this world. So I hope that helps. And the next time I shall be talking about the next few books that she wrote and where they fit on the Valdemar timeline. So, if you aren't already, subscribe. I don't know how you found me if you haven't already subscribed. And I would love to know, because I've been getting a little trickle of newbies. It's so exciting for me to get those notifications. So thank you to all of you who do find me. It's so exciting. But I don't know how you found me, because I'm pretty... yay, I'll say that. Yay for new subscribers. Welcome. We tend to be quite nice around here. With that, I'm going to love you and leave you, and I'll see you next time.